Hi there, welcome to Floating in Dreams. These are the eyeshadow palettes I went back to again because I love them so much. Welcome to everybody watching today. Thank you so very much for joining me. In this video, I'm going to be chatting to you about the 6 eyeshadow palettes that I did some looks with again to either make up my mind about them because I didn't get to do all of the looks I wanted to when I did my review with them, and then there were 4 palettes that I realized those are going to be perfect for the holiday season and are going to make me feel my best in a time of the year where I know I'm going to be super busy and I just want to play with things that I know I love. So that's where the selection of these 6 came from. Let me get to them. So you do have to realize that these are eyeshadow palettes that I did already review in the past, so I'll link you to any of the reviews I might have done. Some of these things have been in my makeup collection for such a long time that all I have for you is a blog post, because it predates me filming a lot of videos on YouTube. So that just goes to show, but I loved every single palette that I have in my hands today. And if you see this outfit and the rest of my look in loads of videos that are coming up this week, I am about to film my end of year favorites for you guys. And I've just decided to keep this look. I'm just gonna change my location to make sure I have a nice festive background for you for those videos. But yeah, this is going to be the selection we played with in December, and let me just chat to you. Kicking things off with quite possibly one of the oldest eyeshadow palettes in my makeup collection and I'm currently still using, and it's my Zoeva En Taupe. I did my cool tone palette ranking for you guys in November, and I did rank this very low down because I know this is very much no longer available, and I know some people have been able to find it through like resellers and stuff on eBay. I do not recommend doing that because this palette is close to 10 years old by now, so whatever you can find online, they're going to be super old palettes because this was only around for a hot minute. The brand discontinued this super quickly, so even when Zoeva was still bringing out some of these bigger palettes until a couple of years ago, this was already long gone by that time. It was only available for like a year or so, and this is one of the first times I ever tried the brand. Now, I can also tell you that this is going to be more of like a satin-heavy palette if you do have it. Some of the people in the comments have been telling me that theirs have expired by now. Mine hasn't, so I'm still really lucky. Of course, I've always had a slightly bigger makeup collection, and I just feel that, as weird as that sounds, it actually helps with how long things last in your makeup collection because you're not using it every single day. And because I keep my makeup in a dry, dark place, it doesn't tend to expire as quickly because I'm not opening and closing it all the time, and I'm not going in with brushes and stuff that could contaminate it. Using makeup is the thing that's actually going to be the highest risk of it becoming problematic in the future. And this, I mean, the binding agents are still intact. It doesn't fall apart. I was still able to pick this up with a brush. And the look I did made me feel like $1,000,000. I ended up doing something that's really close to what my favorites are. I mean, you can tell that this shade in the middle has seen the most use here. These, as light as these are, you might expect that since this is an older palette that I might have hit pan on this really quickly. I didn't, because I feel I only need a little bit of product in order to get the impact I need. I think what I ended up doing was I used this one in the crease, this to just slightly deepen things up. I put this one all over the lid. This I put in the lower lash line. This went into the inner corner, and this I ended up sort of like topping over that lid shade to have that little bit of pinkiness. Because in case you didn't know, these palettes by Zoeva, if you still have a couple of them, check them out because a lot of them have duochromes in. They're not the type of duochromes that we're used to right now, nothing like what's on my face today, but it's definitely sort of like really subtle, really pretty duochrome. So these two in particular are therefore my favorite shades, and they are really, really tremendous. So I did a really stunning look with this again, so I know this won't go anywhere anytime soon. In 2026, I will want to go back to this again at some point. Another oldie but a goodie. Once upon a time, this was my ultimate favorite sort of palette in my entire collection. It's been knocked down just a couple of notches from that, as you will have seen in my neutral palette ranking, but the Huda Beauty Rose Quartz is still a solid favorite. I did do a look with this on a day where I wasn't feeling my best, so I went for something really light and ethereal looking, because I didn't want anything to be too heavy because my eyes were so puffy that day that I was like, if I put any sort of darker shade on, it's just going to accentuate it. So I went with nice, bright, sparkly things, and I used this pink all over the lid because I felt that would like help brighten the area. This is my favorite like lighter shade in the palette. This went onto the lower lash line and stuff, or maybe this one I did. So just a couple of like lighter shades here that I really enjoy. There is a little bit of warmth in this palette, and this palette, it's been discontinued, but last year they actually brought it back on the Huda Beauty website, so you may still actually find this one lingering around if you were still looking for it. I still think this is a really, really awesome palette, and I think it's one of the best things that Huda Beauty has ever done. Again, this may have to stay in my Shop My Stash for January because I like it so much. Like, this is like my new version of my Too Faced White Chocolate Bar that I had to declutter last year because it was just, it got too old, and I used it once in January, and because that's usually when I was using that palette, it's very much like a winter color story for me. And I just realized as I was using it, it didn't feel the same as I remembered it being. So that's a sign that it's expired. So it went into my makeup memory box. I will never declutter that thing. But I think that in here, I get a very similar vibe of what I would get with the Too Faced White Chocolate Bar. So this could be like another pick in January or February just to have those light, ethereal, whimsical shades in, because that's what I like best about this palette. And I'm not a huge fan of pinks, but the pinks in this palette I do like. Then an eyeshadow palette that I filmed with for you guys. So if you saw my full face makeup look that went live last week, then you will have seen me apply the That's Taupe and sort of like my favorite look with that. And then I topped it with some Juicy or Josie. I think they're called Juicy. I heard Robert Welsh pronouncing it as Juicy, and someone in the comments also said it's called Juicy. So I'll go with Juicy for now. And I used those to top over this, and it was absolutely stunning. I ended up not wearing this particular palette on the day of my office Christmas party because I was doing the math, and it was like, if I want to have that video up before Christmas, I need to get a move on. So I ended up using a different palette for my party. But yeah, this is still a really, really beautiful eyeshadow palette. I still think it's one of the best palettes in my collection. Till this day, this is quite possibly the best eyeshadow palette that ColourPop has ever done. I think this you can still get. So if you have never tried That's Taupe, I think it's one of the best cooler tone neutral palettes on the market. It's not overly cool tone though, so especially if you have someone, or if you are someone who has a very, very strong cool undertone, this may pull a little bit warm toned on you. Just be warned. And finally, the palette that I did end up using for my office Christmas party is the Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes Moonlight Edition. This is the one that we got last year, and this is just absolutely pretty. This is just one of the most stunning palettes I've ever used. And I realized as I was going through my little selection in my Shop My Stash that the shimmers in this palette would probably give a very similar effect to what I was getting from the Juicy singles that I had taken with me to London. So rather than using the ColourPop and using those additional shades to top over it, I was like, you know what? This way I have everything in one palette and it will just be a little bit easier for me to manage. So that's what I ended up doing. I, of course, had to use like some of these like cool tones in here. This is my favorite shimmer, so I use that all over the lid. Use this a little bit to top it off with. So many stunning shades in this, and we all know how much I rate the Makeup by Mario formula. It's one of my favorites, and I really feel it's a very unique formula as well compared to everything else I have. It has a lot of innovation behind it, and I'm really thinking that as this becomes the norm, more and more brands will start to do things like this. I didn't get the new Ethereal Eyes palette because it's too similar to the first edition he did, but then it has a green in, and I'm like, I don't need every rendition of this palette. This is absolutely stunning because it has the cooler undertones. The bright pop of blue makes it a little bit more special, but it's the shimmers really that make this palette stand out to me. I love how you can use these wet or dry. You can layer them for a more impactful look. And if you saw the little post I did over on my community tab, because I took some pictures really quickly before I had to leave my house to get to my office Christmas party, you will have seen how shiny and shimmery these shades are. I think it's really, really pretty. So, and that was all just that one palette. I didn't use anything else on my eyes. And then finally, what's on my eyes today is Cosmic Beauty. These are palettes that I bought over the summertime when they released, and I tested them out for you in October. But in my October review, there were so many cool palettes in there, and I managed to do looks with this, so I was able to give you, like, share my thoughts with you on the formula and stuff, but I wasn't able to use every single pan in the palette, which is always my aim when I review eyeshadow palettes. I don't want to go off of first impressions. But Cosmic Beauty is a brand that I know. I've been trying them since the Serenity palette came out. So I knew that I only really needed to do one look with these in order to know a little bit of what I would think. So I didn't feel I was selling you too short by not trying every single pan. And because these are 20 pan eyeshadow palettes, they take 3 to 4 looks for me to be able to use every single pan. So I just ran out of time that month to also be able to film my video. But I was like, you know what? I do want to make sure that I know whether these are going to be some of my ultimate favorite palettes that I've tried this year or not. So I want to make sure I bring them back in. And so I did 2 additional looks with these this month. So I'll make sure to link my review to the October video in the description box down below, so you can see all the swatches and the other looks I've already done. But these were both stunning. What's on my lids today? It's the Muse. And in the Muse, I did a look focusing on some of the green tones at first. And now that I've used the entire palette, I've come to realize something. I already said this in my first review, that I do feel that this is a slightly different formula compared to the newer palette. So the Smolder is new. The Muse has been around for a while. I believe this was their release after the Serenity, and this is one where I was very much on the fence whether I should get it or not, because it looks quite deep, and I just thought that this was like the Serenity, but for people with a deeper skin tone. That's how it looked a lot of the times to me, until I started more and more people wearing it. And then came the announcement this summer that this was going to be the last time that they would restock this eyeshadow palette, and it wouldn't come back. So it's like, okay, if I still want to try it, this is going to be the moment. So I picked it up through Monolith, and I do really enjoy this color story. However, what you need to realize, if you already own this, or if you were still lusting after this, is that this looks interesting because of the layout, not because of the shades that are in it. The reason why this palette draws your eye is because all of the colors are in an unexpected position within the palette. Essentially, this is a 50% green eyeshadow palette because there are a lot of greens in here. Even, no, this one here in the bottom even has a bit of a green flip. So you roughly get 8 shades that are a rendition of a green. You get some purples and pinks that go really well together. And then you just have some warmer toned neutrals to sort of, that was a pink that it was like, you just have some like neutral things like browns and some yellows and stuff to round out the palette. So overall, it's not as interesting as you might expect when you first look at this. And I realized that as I was putting the looks together, because I always try to go with like shades that might go together in my brain. So I did that look first of all with some of the green tones in, and then I sort of focused my looks that I did for the video I'm showing you today on the top half of the palette and the bottom half of the palette. I figured that if I did a video, that I did a look with this like sort of row in the palette and then across like this, I would have really gotten a grasp of what this palette could do. And what I realized as I was using it is that it has some really stunning shades in, but they're just not laid out the way you're gonna use them. And of course you can mix and match them. I think this corner here is a really beautiful quad, as is these like pinks with the green and the brown. So I feel like you can use it as quads as well to get a little bit more of a color clash, because very often if you want really interesting makeup looks, all you need to do is juxtapose some colors and you're fine. But I feel that doesn't always give me the right idea of what palettes can do, because sometimes if you clash too hard, things don't blend very nicely. So that's why I try to not do that. So for the look I'm wearing on my lids today, I went in with the pinky tone here, the purples here. I use this as liner. This is on the lower lash line a little bit. I ended up blending things out with this shade. I use this matte in the inner corner, which I topped off with that shimmer here in the corner, and that's sort of the look that I did. So that's what I'm wearing on my lids today. And then the other look I did was like centered around this yellow, and I tried to work in this more yellow tone green shimmer and stuff to make that work. So it's a beautiful palette. I do enjoy this color story. I enjoy the quality, even though it's different compared to this. I feel this is more impactful. In here, I find that the mattes are a little bit patchy and they need more building up for them to blend nicely and to have them go on effectively, you could say. And the shimmers in here feel a little bit thinner, but they do apply with a brush really nicely, and you can intensify them with a finger quite easily as well. So the Muse, successful. Not my new favorite Cosmic Beauty palettes by any means, because I do feel that it just looks more interesting than it actually is. And now that I've tried it, I'm like, I think I have other things in my makeup collection that can do this. So I don't think it's as unique as it might look. And then finally, the Smolder palette, and the Smolder palette has stolen my heart a little bit. I became a little bit worried because I did do a look with this palette that I also filmed some videos with wearing, and it's centered around this shade here, which is a beautiful shimmer, but it's the only true warm tone in the entire palette. I feel like these two shades, if you leave those out, you can see that it's a very cool tone palette, but it does have a touch of warmth. If you want your cool tone palettes to not have a smidge of any warmth whatsoever, this is not for you, okay? But for me, I do enjoy that a little bit, but because I centered the look around this shade, I don't think that it looked like an eyeshadow look that you would expect this palette to do. So it was a little out there compared to that, because it had this really peachy pink sort of vibe. I wish this shimmer was different. I can only let you know that. Does it work in the grand scheme of things? Yes, but I think if I were to ever go back to this palette, I would stick more towards the top 3 rows, or like these 3 rows rather than the top row here. I ended up doing the final look I still needed to do the other day, and I used these 6 shades, and it was so stunning. There is something about, I don't know what's in this shade called Smolder. It was a little bit difficult to pick up, but it ended up being so beautiful. It had this really nice sparkle to it that really in low light just showed up really nicely. So it looked like a smoky eye, but because of the sparkle in that shade, it really was amped up. And because I topped it with this blue pink sort of flashy shade, it really looked super stunning, especially in real life. I felt like the pictures I was taking of it wasn't quite doing it justice. Because it's the winter time, I now need to take pictures with my ring light sometimes, and I always feel, even though it makes things look more sparkly, it also makes things look more flat than when I take pictures in daylight. So, but it's just more difficult for me to do that if it's like the winter time and I need to head out the door like right now, you know? So summertime is always better for showcasing makeup, I feel. But yeah, we have a nice sunny day today, so that makes it that makes me a happy bunny. But here is that palette, and I think it's really stunning. It's as cool toned as I think most palettes will go. It has some beautiful taupey things in. It has gray things in as well. I think this is a really successful palette, and I'm not saying it's like my favorite new cool tone palette. I definitely think I've tried some other things this year and in the past that I like perhaps a touch better, but this is good. And if I go by what the Cool Trolls gave me, so the Cool Trolls is a palette that they did last year, that I really also enjoyed, but it wasn't quite giving what I had expected. This is giving what I wanted the Cool Trolls to give. So that's why this is successful for me. And I think it has some really beautiful special shades in. And if you were looking for a good cool tone color story and you're willing to ignore that top corner shade with the weird warm shift to it, then I think you're going to be very happy with this. You will still have 19 other pans that are going to get you a really nice cool toned look. But I think this palette could have benefited from a slightly more cooler tone pink vibe in these. I think that would have worked a little bit better. So like if I'm like, wait, hold on, because I've got it lying right here, right? If these types of pinks with like a sort of more like a blue undertone would have been in here rather than pinks with more of like a peachy undertone, I think it would have worked a little bit better in the grander scheme of things. But yeah, this is still a beautiful palette. It's the Cosmic Beauty formula I know I love, and I know that I will go back to this at some point because it is a beautiful, beautiful palette. And there you have it. Those are all of the eyeshadow palettes that I went back to in December. I will definitely be continuing this series in the new year. I did a little poll as part of my giveaway. If you haven't entered yet, make sure you do, because the giveaway is still open until Christmas Day. So if you haven't filled out the questionnaire yet, please do. I'm almost at 100 people who filled it in, which I think is a good number compared to the number of subscribers I have, to get a good idea of what you guys want. And what I find so funny is that some people are telling me not to continue this series, but I'm having too much fun, because this is an incentive for me to use the things I have and to talk about things that you may also have in your makeup collection, and to go back to it and to see if I like it and to see if things have expired or not. So I'm going to definitely keep this video idea as part of my filming schedule, because I'm just having too much fun filming these. And I also think there's a lot of people who enjoyed this as well. I just love going back to my palettes and using them again, and this is just a really nice sort of nudge for me to keep doing that, because else I'll just forget, because there's always so much new stuff coming in, and if I can't film with it, I have found over time that that just makes it more challenging for me to actually do those things. It's not that I don't want to, it's just that I get distracted and then I get busy and then I forget. But yeah, those are the eyeshadow palettes I used again, and let me know in a comment down below what eyeshadow palettes you've been using. I would love to know. And then I look forward to seeing you very, very soon, either on this channel or on my second channel. I have a second channel called Floating in Books, where I talk about books, fashion, travel, whenever I get to travel, and I just talk about things that didn't fit into this channel anymore. So you can follow me there for some other content. I have a blog where I gather everything, and if you want to follow my coloring journey, that's going on over on TikTok, which is floatingindreams_. There's loads of links always in the description box down below, so if you want to find me in other places, you can. But yeah, this place is for makeup videos only. And here I post 4 times a week, and you can look forward to my end of year favorites, which are going to happen from Christmas Day onwards. So I hope you stay tuned for all of that goodness, and then I hope to see you again really, really soon in a new video. Bye-bye.